The Zephyrian battleships hung in Earth's sky like metallic storm clouds, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly luminescence that made the morning sun seem dim by comparison. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station, watching humanity's first contact unfold in the most unexpected way possible. They're demanding what? President Martinez's voice crackled through the comm system, disbelief evident even through the static. Complete submission, Chen replied, reading from the translated message that had been broadcast across every frequency on Earth. They want all world leaders to gather in New York and perform what they call the genuflection of acknowledgement before their Supreme Chancellor. The alien message had been clear. Lesser species of the third planet, you will demonstrate your acceptance of Zephyrian supremacy by prostrating yourselves before our representative. Failure to comply will result in orbital bombardment and systematic planetary subjugation. Dr. James Morrison, Earth's lead xenolinguist, adjusted his glasses nervously. Admiral, their language patterns suggest a rigid hierarchical society. Every species they've encountered has apparently submitted immediately upon seeing their fleet. Chen nodded, but her expression remained thoughtful rather than fearful. And how many species have they encountered? According to their databases that we've managed to decrypt, 47 different civilizations across the galaxy. All of them bowed? Without exception. Chen smiled, an expression that had worried her enemies and reassured her allies for 3 decades of military service. Well then, I suppose it's time they met their 48th species. 6 hours later, the alien shuttle descended onto the hastily prepared landing pad in Central Park. The craft was elegant in its alienness, all flowing curves and impossible angles that seemed to shift when observed directly. As the boarding ramp extended, a collective held breath seemed to grip not just the thousands of onlookers behind the security barriers, but the billions watching on screens across the globe. The Zephyrian Supreme Chancellor emerged with the bearing of one accustomed to absolute deference. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, the being was humanoid in basic structure but possessed an ethereal quality that made it seem like a living statue carved from starlight. Its skin held an opalescent sheen, and when it moved, reality seemed to ripple around it like water. Behind the Chancellor, a retinue of similarly impressive aliens formed a perfect formation. Their technology was clearly far beyond anything humanity possessed. Their weapons alone seemed capable of leveling city blocks with casual ease. The human delegation waited at the base of the platform. President Martinez stood at the center, flanked by the leaders of the major world powers, all in their finest formal attire, but notably none showed any inclination to bow. The Chancellor's voice resonated with harmonic undertones that suggested power beyond comprehension. Humans of Earth assume the position of submission. Acknowledge Zephyrian supremacy as 47 species before you have done. President Martinez stepped forward, the moment stretched taut as a bowstring, the fate of humanity balanced on a knife's edge. Then, incredibly, he smiled and extended his right hand toward the towering alien. "Welcome to Earth," Martinez said simply. "I'm President Martinez. It's a pleasure to meet you." The Chancellor stared at the outstretched hand as if Martinez had just sprouted a second head. "You misunderstand the protocol, lesser being. You are to prostrate yourself in recognition of our superiority." "I understand perfectly," Martinez replied, hand still extended. "But here's the thing, we don't bow to anyone. However, we'd be happy to shake hands and discuss how we can work together as equals." A ripple of what could only be described as confusion passed through the alien delegation. The Chancellor's opalescent features shifted through expressions that suggested this scenario had never been encountered in their species' long history of conquest. Equals? The word seemed to cause the Chancellor physical discomfort. "You are a primitive species. Your technology is millennia behind ours. Your military could not resist us for a single solar cycle." Dr. Morrison stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overriding his fear. "If you don't mind me asking, Your Excellency, what did you do with those other 47 species after they submitted?" The Chancellor regarded him with something resembling surprise at being questioned. We incorporated them into our empire. They serve us now, as is proper for inferior beings. And are they happy? Martinez interjected. Happy? The concept seemed foreign. They serve. That is sufficient. But are they fulfilled? Do they create art, explore new ideas, push the boundaries of what's possible? The Chancellor's silence was telling. President Martinez lowered his hand but maintained his stance. You see, that's where we differ. We believe every intelligent species has something unique to contribute. We don't want to be your subjects, and honestly, we don't want you to be ours either. What we want is to be partners. Partners. The Chancellor tested the word like it might explode. You would dare suggest partnership with beings of our advanced capabilities? Why not? Martinez shrugged. You've got incredible technology, clearly superior military might, and what seems like efficient organizational systems. But have you ever considered that maybe, just maybe, those 47 species that bowed to you had something to offer that you never bothered to discover? The alien leader was quiet for a long moment, its features cycling through expressions that human observers couldn't quite interpret. Dr. Morrison seized the moment. Your technology is impressive, but when was the last time your people created something truly new? When did they last explore for the sheer joy of discovery rather than conquest? Our empire spans. But when did you last laugh? Martinez interrupted gently. When did you last feel wonder at something unexpected? When did you last learn something that changed how you see the universe? The Chancellor's retinue shifted uncomfortably behind their leader. For beings accustomed to instant submission, this conversation was clearly venturing into uncharted territory. You confuse me, humans, the Chancellor admitted finally. Every species has either fled in terror or submitted immediately upon seeing our fleet. You do neither. Instead, you offer partnership? That's exactly what we offer, Martinez confirmed, extending his hand again. A handshake between equals, the beginning of something neither of our species has experienced before. A genuine alliance based on mutual respect rather than domination. The Chancellor stared at the offered hand for what felt like an eternity. Around them, the world held its breath. Finally, slowly, the alien leader extended one of its own appendages, longer than a human hand but serving the same function. When their hands met, it was with the firm grip of equals meeting for the first time. Perhaps, the Chancellor said quietly, it is time we learned what partnership means. And in that moment, humanity didn't just avoid conquest. They began, the first truly equal alliance in galactic history, all because they refused to bow and instead offered a handshake.